Howdy everybody in YouTube land. Some time has passed since we last worked on this guy, and I'm hoping to get this thing wrapped up soon. This is either going to be the final part or second to final part because I still want to get the caps, which I don't think I have them right now. I might. I have to look and see. But so as we saw in the last installment, I had the wrong grease and I was having problems. So I went ahead and got this grease, and I just redid this rod here, and I think it's, yeah, much better. It's not real slow to return like it was before. So yeah, we're good with that now. So I'm gonna have to flip this over and redo the grease on the bottom side to get it right, and then I think we'll be okay. So let's do that. So the one thing we need to do while we have this apart, cleaning up the grease that I need to change out, I need to put the right belt in there for the tape counter, because the one that we had, if you remember, was too short. So I want to go through here and see if I have a belt that I can put in there so I can go ahead and take the opportunity and put it in there while this thing's apart. That's much better. It doesn't have 10,000 square pounds of drag on it now. So now that we have the right belt in there, or one that's close enough, we can go ahead and reattach the reed switch for the magnet and all that fun stuff. So alright, so now we can move along and clean all the rest of this gunk up that I mistakenly put on there and put the right stuff on there. Alright, everything is re-lubricated and reinstalled, so I just have to start putting it back together. Slowly but surely. Alrighty then, so it's all nice and lubricated. We'll get the belts on and get it back together, and then we'll be done. Just gotta get a screw in there, because it'd be missing. I lost the washer. Belts are in place. This is all reinstalled. The other thing I want to do too is because I gotta switch the top plates from this one, because that one has got a good standoff on it. This one's completely broken, and these standoffs are, crimped on. There's nothing I can do to fix that. I have to replace this whole top assembly. Well, it's not entirely true. There's ways to get around it, like you could drill it out and then get one of those little computer hex style standoffs and do something like that, but I don't want to do that because I have a whole nother top plate here. So what I'm going to do, I think, is I want to make a documentation of where all these wires go, because I need to figure out how to remove those wires. So there's a purple, black, blue, with white there and there. Yeah, red, yellow, blue, white goes there. Let's see here. Blue and purple there. 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 So we want to make sure you get all of these wires. If you were to take this board off, you need to be able to put them all back where they're supposed to go, which, if we recap this board, they all got to come off anyways. So it's definitely a fun adventure. And I'm documenting this so others, in case they made that mistake and don't remember where they all go, now you know where they all go. I'll take better details and photos later, but alright. That's what I wanted to do. Same thing over here. There's caps in there that had to be replaced, so yep. So I finally have everything in place, including the plate read right head, Lord. The playback record head, erase head stack, and the pinch roller's been cleaned off. All that stuff's been cleaned. Everything's been lubricated. It all seems to, guide pretty smoothly now. So now I'm going to continue putting the rest of it back together. let's see. I still have to put the tray back on, which requires me to leave this unscrewed while I'm doing that. So put that on. I gotta put the screws back in here, and yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and continue putting all this back together. I got these two pieces over here which go to the record play switches down there. Then I gotta put the button stack back on. And yeah, I think we're done with the mechanical side of it anyways. But then we have to dive into that side, and I'm not looking forward to that. So let's keep plugging. Alright, so this thing took some major disassembly to get this plate off. Now this plate's got some rust and corrosion on it, and I had to leave this soak overnight and get all this old rotten foam off, because I'm going to lay down some tape here. I'm just going to use that as padding instead. But to get that off, I had to take all the wires off of the circuit board, because here's the original circuit board over here. So we get to look at this glorious discrete goodness. But this is the parts unit, so it's not like the good one's down there, the one I've been working on. But this is the old one. It's got all the old grease and stuff on it. So yeah, I wanted to start with this one to see what I ruined before I start with that one down there. So I got the plate off, but to get this off required some major surgery, like unsoldering all of these. I had to unsolder all of the front panel jacks, had to come out of there because it fits through this hole and there's no way to get it out. And then these just push through, and then that had to be unscrewed, and then the fader controls had to be unscrewed. I also had to remember that which fader goes where. Like the blue and purple fader goes on this side, while the the orange and yellow one goes on this side. So at least I have that. Yeah, so it's painful, but I took some reference photos, and hopefully through this nest of wires I can get it all back together somehow. The one thing I did learn that I'm not going to do on the other one is this one. I left the wire retainers in place on this plate. I took them off, but these wire retainers here, I left them in place, but it's made a mess of the wires. So I think what I'm going to do is on this one down here, I'm just going to leave the retaining rings on the wires and just push them through the plate. That way it'll keep the wires somewhat bundled together, because this is a nightmare. Yeah, anyways. Alright, moving right along. So I got the main circuit board out, and I also finally got the plate off, and I'm left with all of this mess that I have to clean up. But while I have it apart, I want to clean these switches because I can get to them easier. And I want to start replacing some capacitors and stuff down there. But I have to get a capacitor list together. So that's pretty much all I can do at this point until I get the capacitors in. But the reason why we needed to change this top cover so we have a better look at what went on is this standoff right here. The threads are all mangled and run out of it. You can see the metal shavings on there. So there's no way the original screws going back in there. But the problem is that it's peened over. So it's part of this metal plate. So there's no fixing that unless, like, if you drilled this out and you put in a standard hex style standoff and put a screw on this side and a screw that way, maybe. But you'd have to get the right threads so the original top screw can get put back in place, which I think is this screw right here. That's the original top screw. So it would have to be that. So unfortunately, I do not have a way to replace that standoff, so we have to replace the whole top cover assembly, which is not easy because this is a substructure for everything on below. Yeah, so sometimes I swear it would have been easier just to remove the deck over to them. Anyways, I need to replace this piece too because one of the two screw heads is, all the threads are destroyed in that too, but that's not a big deal because it literally just screws on. So I have the other one from the other unit. So I'll replace that, and then I'll replace that. But I need to get a capacitor list together and then get the caps ordered. I also need to find this one. This is the 1 microfarad 350 volt non-polar motor run cap. And what was originally wrong with this unit was the motor would start off fast and start running slow. And this is probably why. You can see remnants of the oil on it. It's sticky. So it's got to be replaced. That's bad. So, all right. Well, we're going to need to order the caps and get it all replaced. So, yeah. We'll be back when we get all the parts in and we can get all that done. So here we are. We got all the parts in. I had a lot of the caps on hand already for this board, but there's a few that I didn't have, and I marked down which ones they were. And these are these weird bipolar, non-polar capacitors. Like this 1 microfarad 350 volt. That's the big oil cap that runs the electric motor, the run cap. So I'm gonna replace that with these film caps, or at least try to, anyways. But then there's this 0.47, and there's some other ones which are here in this circuit, in this section here. I don't have those, but and it's hard in 2022. It's hard to get some of these caps. They're either not made anymore, they're out of stock. So we're gonna try some things like this. This is a 0.47 film cap, which is bigger and has a wider lead spacing that's going to fit in here, but I bet if I try hard enough I can cram that in there somewhere. So that's what we're going to try to do to fix the Akai, as far as recapping it. And the thing is, last time I used this deck, it's been years and years, but it did work to a certain degree. These record play switches were noisy, but they were that in the late 90s when I got the deck. So, yeah, I gotta clean that out. But it did have sound, but I bet by recapping it, it'll probably sound better, because these early Japanese capacitors from the 70s, they tend to dry out over time. So we're just gonna go ahead. They don't really leak per se, but they dry out. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna change all of them out, because this is a full restoration anyway, so that's what we're going to do. Also, take note when you're recapping one of these that the polarity is not marked on the board. Matter of fact, there are no markings on the top of this board. So when you remove these, pay close attention to which direction the capacitors were in when you remove them. So I removed the two 100 microfarads, and the negative lead is on this side. So that's how we're going to install the new ones. So just keep that in mind. Don't pull out the cap blindly and be like, oops, because you're going to have a problem. You could probably find it in this schematic, but I don't want to look for hours. So I'm moving along in the recapping process, and now we're to the point where we have these 0.47 microfarad 50 volt bipolar capacitors. So the only thing I can get now are these, which are a lot higher in voltage, but they're film caps instead. So I went ahead and dressed one up and put it in the holes. There's where the other one goes, and it fits in there perfectly fine, and it actually doesn't look bad. It almost looks factory. So yeah, that actually came out better than I thought it was going to. So I'm going to bend this one up and put it in over here too. This is how I bend them up. I just grab my pliers and bend them up in exactly that way, which is the correct lead spacing to fit those holes. And there we have it. This board is completed. It's got all new caps in there, and we're all ready to reinstall this board. Now we need to work on these switches next. I gotta clean those up, but also we need to work on this board here, which is the little power supply board. And there's all the old caps sitting over there. So all good. Now we're just moving right along. Time to move on to the next adventure of this restoration. So we have to recap this board here, but before we get to that, I want to do this one. This is the one that's real sticky and oily, with the 1 microfarad to 350 volt cap, which runs this motor. So we're just gonna suck this guy off. And then we're going to remove that cap and replace it with the film cap. Once we get that out of the way, I will move on to this one over here. All of the capacitors have finally been done. I got the film cap in there now. It's been replaced. And I have all of those complete now. There was another bipolar. I had to use a film cap in its place. So we're all good. Now it's a matter of getting the top cover back on. But if you remember, we had to steal the one off of the other one, which is right here, and it's not perfect. It's actually pretty terrible, but that's what we have, so that's what's going to go in its place. And we got to put it all back together. I still got to get some fader lube in these guys, but we'll do that last. You think the Philco predictors are bad? Yeah. So now I got to remember where all of this goes on the board, which I've got some reference photos, but oh yeah. Oh, by some miracle, I got all the wires back on. Do I have them all in the right spots? Your guess would be about as bad as mine, because I don't know. So I got these, because the easy way to tell is there's two channels that are exactly the same, so you should have the same amount of, yeah, anyway, so, yeah, two there, there's one there, two, 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 one, two, one, two, one, two. So there's a cluster of four here. These are going to the faders. Then I got two, and then one, and then two, and then one, and then two here. The heads coming in. Erase heads there. Headphone out, meter, power and ground, and an interlock, record lock switch, LED. It's all good. Everything's good. Got all this soldered back in too. So really, there's two more things we got to do. First, we got to replace this side panel because the threads are all run out in it, which I have that there. But before I do that, we should plug this in and see if it works. Oh man, that would be something. This thing has not worked in years. Oh, why not? Let's plug this thing in and see if it works. I just unwrapped the cord and plugged it in, but I have not turned it on yet. So here goes nothing. I can't tell if it's running or not. It is. I don't think that's supposed to be lit though. Oh no. Well, maybe. That's me messing with the record play switches. So if I stop that, it should trigger it out. And it does. Alright, so that I don't think is supposed to be lit. So I gotta look at the circuit for that and figure out what's going on there. So we have that lights up. I don't know what that does. That might be record. Yep, it is. That's the record LED. This is one of the Dolby LEDs, and that's the peak LED, which for some reason is not. These aren't LEDs, these are bulbs, but that bulb is burned out. I'll have to replace it. That bulb lights. But yeah, I think we're good. Let's go get a tape and see what it does. I'm gonna get my test tone tape. Okay, so I got a couple of tapes here. I got my test tape for, some random music I recorded God knows how many years ago. And then I have this Tony audio tape, which I got from eBay. I don't know the quality of these. I don't know how accurate they are. I don't know how good they are. But it's a 3 kilohertz, 0 dB speed, wow, and flutter. So we have a problem with this, I've noticed. So we got some issues going on there. I don't know exactly why it's doing that yet. I'm gonna have to dig into it. But it doesn't seem to affect anything as far as I can tell. But so there's our wow and flutter tape. And you can, yeah, it's not even close to 0 dB, but that may be normal. Listen to that wow and flutter. That's the belt. And chances are it's this cheap Chinese belt that they sell with these kits now. And it wouldn't be the first time this has happened, because there's a YouTuber 12 volt vids that has gone through this with other cassette decks. And I'm sure there's other members on YouTube and not on YouTube that's gone through this all the time recently. So it's this belt kit that comes with it. And yeah, I'm probably going to end up putting the original belt back in there. But the other thing I don't have is I don't have my multimeter, my frequency counter, and all that handy at the moment. It's somewhere else where I accidentally left it, and it's got to be sent back to me. So I'm kind of stuck right now. So this might be where I end the video, and we'll just do a separate video on the calibration of this deck, especially after I look at the service manual. The other thing too, this is an AC synchronous motor, so there's really no speed adjustment. So how they did that was right here. There's a little felt lever there, and if you look, you can see like black marks on that lever. Well, this lever drags against the belt to adjust the speed of the belt. That's how you adjust the speed of this cassette deck, is you let it rub against the belt. And yeah, well, that's great for wow and flutter, you know. Anyways, you can hear it ring because of the wow and flutter of this particular belt. The original one is not terrible. I might put it back in there, but we'll see. Anyways, let's do a little bit of a music test. So yeah, it's working. So yeah, I think I'm going to call it here. We'll do a separate video on the calibrating of this thing. I need to grease this too, because it's not... Yeah, that needs work, but that's not a big deal. Anyways, for now, this has been a restoration series of this particular cassette deck. We just got to do the calibration and dig into that, and we'll save that for the next video. So, in the meantime, thank you for watching, and if you have a comment, please feel free to leave one. And until next time, guys.